Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And today we're going to get into something really fascinating, visual intelligence.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. So we're going to be talking all about Amy Herman's book, Visual Intelligence, The Art of Accurate Observation and Effective Communication.
All right.
But we're going to be using a really cool book club discussion that we found about this as our guide.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so get ready because, we're going to be unlocking our inner Sherlock Holmes
Yeah.
and discovering how sharpening our observation and communication skills can
Yeah.
really just change how we see the world and interact with others.
It's amazing how much we miss when we're just like on autopilot,
Right.
just passively going through the day.
Yeah, totally.
This is going to help us all become more conscious and more active observers.
I love that. And, the book club discussion really emphasized that observation isn't just about seeing, right?
Right.
It's about actively gathering information and making sense of it.
Pass.
And they had this super interesting story about Dr. Joseph Bell,
Oh, yeah.
who was the real-life inspiration for Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
And apparently he could deduce all sorts of things about his patients just by looking at tiny little details.
It's incredible. I love that they described a scene with all these medical students gathered around this elderly patient.
Uh-huh.
And he just casually asked her, "Do your short stem cigarettes tremble?"
Whoa!
And of course, all the students were like, "What is he talking about?"
How could he possibly know that?
But he had noticed all these tiny clues,
Right.
like this little ulcer on her lip and a smooth scar on her cheek,
Oh, wow.
which was actually the outline of a cigarette burn.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder how much we miss, when we're just not paying attention.
Right.
So how do we train ourselves to be more like Sherlock?
Well, the book outlines 3 key exercises that we can do.
Okay, love it.
The first one is overcoming bias.
Hmm.
Our brains are wired to make snap judgments, but they can often be totally wrong.
Yeah, that's so true. They give this great example using a photo from Obama's election.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
At first glance, it totally looks like this woman is crying with
Yeah.
her worried kid next to her.
Yeah, like a really sad moment.
But when you look closer, you see people celebrating in the background.
You realize they're actually cheering and super happy.
It was actually this moment of pure joy.
Right. It's a classic example of how our first impressions can be so misleading.
Yeah, especially in today's world where everything moves so fast.
It's like, how often do we let our assumptions cloud our judgment,
Yeah, for sure. It's so easy to just get caught up in our own stories and miss things.
Absolutely.
So, okay, the second exercise is all about shifting perspectives,
Okay.
literally and figuratively.
I like that.
And the book talked about how the FBI actually trains agents to constantly look back while they're moving forward,
Oh, interesting.
creating these mental maps of their surroundings.
Oh, that's so smart.
Yeah, so
Wow.
it's not just about remembering how to, escape. It's about developing this crazy situational awareness.
So being able to remember all those little details
Right.
can be really crucial when you're in a high pressure situation.
Totally. And that makes sense, in a security context.
Uh-huh.
But I can also see how it would apply to, understanding people.
Right, like stepping into their shoes and seeing things from their side.
Exactly.
It just leads to more empathy and understanding.
100%.
Okay.
Okay, so what's the third exercise?
The third one focuses on noticing what's missing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it might sound a little counterintuitive, but it's really revealing.
Give me an example.
Think about that classic Sherlock Holmes story where the dog doesn't bark during the crime.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's the fact that there's no bark that tells Sherlock that the culprit was someone the dog knew.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
Sometimes the things that aren't there are just as important as the things that are.
That's a really powerful point. I love that.
Yeah.
We get so focused on what's right in front of us that we miss the bigger picture. So, okay, we've talked about becoming better observers.
Yeah.
But how do we actually use that to communicate better?
Right.
I feel like that's where things can get really tricky.
For sure.
Sometimes you can see something so clearly,
Yeah.
but then you just can't get the message across.
Yeah, that's the worst.
That's such a good point. We've talked about all this stuff about becoming better observers.
Yeah.
But what good is that information if we can't explain it to anybody?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can have the most brilliant idea in the world,
Right.
but if you can't communicate it effectively, it's like it doesn't even exist.
Totally. And the book club people actually talked about this.
Really?
Yeah, they were saying that even when people had really great ideas, they often found that those ideas got like rejected or misunderstood.
Oh, I totally relate to it. It happens all the time.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating.
It is. It's like, you're trying to get your point across,
Right.
but it just feels like you're speaking a different language.
Yeah, and it makes you start to question, like, are my ideas even good?
Right. Or am I just bad at explaining things?
Exactly. And I think what they were getting at is that communication isn't just about like transmitting information.
Right.
It's about making sure that the other person actually gets it.
100%. You have to connect with them on their level.
Yeah, and understand what matters to them.
It's not just about what you say, it's about what they hear.
I love that the book club actually mentions some specific principles.
Oh, cool.
For effective communication that can help us leverage this whole visual intelligence thing.
Okay. I'm all ears.
What was the first one?
So the first principle is all about finding resonance.
Finding resonance. Okay.
Yeah, it's about making sure your message actually connects with the other person.
So it's not just about the words you use.
Yeah, it's about how those words make them feel.
Oh, that's interesting. They gave a really cool example using a fundraising campaign.
Oh, yeah.
So there was this charity that was celebrating their 40th anniversary, and their slogan was like, celebrating 40 years of our organization.
Okay, straightforward enough.
Right. But it didn't work.
It didn't.
It didn't. They like totally missed their fundraising goal.
What?
Because their message was all about like how great they were.
Oh, so they were focused on themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And not about the people they were helping.
Like what they actually do.
Right. So the donors didn't connect with it.
They weren't inspired to give.
Nope. So how could they have changed it?
Well, they could have flipped it around and focused on the impact.
Oh, okay.
Like imagine if they had said something like, over the past 40 years, we've helped 100,000 children return to school.
Okay.
Thank you for your support. Your generosity allows us to continue making a difference.
Wow, that is so much better.
Right.
It makes the donors feel like they're part of something.
Exactly. They're not just giving money, they're making a real difference.
That's such a small change, but it makes a huge difference.
It's all about framing.
Okay, finding resonance. I
Yeah.
like it. What's the next principle?
The next one is called the rule of 3 R's.
Okay, the rule of 3 R's. I love it.
Repetition, renaming, and reframing.
Okay, can you break those down for me?
Sure. So repetition is pretty simple.
Yep.
It's just about repeating important information.
Right.
Because we often assume people get things the first time we say them.
But they don't.
But they don't. So repetition helps to make sure everyone is on the same page.
And it avoids those really costly misunderstandings.
Especially at work.
Right.
Where a small mistake can have big consequences.
Okay, so repetition check. What about renaming?
So renaming is all about choosing the right words.
Okay.
Because words have power.
They do.
For example,
Oh.
and instead of calling something a problem,
Yeah.
you could call it a challenge.
Oh, I like that.
Right? Because problem sounds negative.
Yeah, it does.
But challenge sounds like something you can overcome.
it feels more hopeful.
Exactly. It shifts the whole mindset.
Okay, and reframing.
Reframing is about changing the perspective.
Okay.
Like instead of saying, come to my office,
Mm-hmm.
you could say, can you help me with something?
Oh, yeah,
The first one sounds kind of demanding,
it does.
but the second one makes the other person feel valued.
It's more collaborative.
Exactly. It shows that you respect their time and their input.
Yeah, these are good.
Ah,
So repetition, renaming, reframing.
the 3 R's.
I'm going to use these.
I hope so.
What's the last principle?
Okay, the last one is about separating fact from inference.
Okay, separating fact from inference. Interesting.
It's about being really careful not to jump to conclusions.
Oh, I see. So like not making assumptions.
Right, because assumptions can be really dangerous.
Totally. And they used a great example to illustrate this.
What was it?
A bloody knife.
Oh, yeah.
So saying like there's blood on the knife,
Uh-huh.
that's a fact.
Right.
But saying this knife was used in a crime.
That's an inference.
Exactly. And it might be true,
Right.
but it might not be.
You need more evidence.
Yeah. So we have to be really careful to separate what we actually see from what we think might be true.
100%. It's about being objective and avoiding those knee-jerk reactions.
I love that. So it's like by mastering these communication principles and combining them with our awesome observation skills,
Yes.
we can really unlock the true power of visual intelligence.
We become communication ninjas.
I love it. So it's about seeing the world more clearly and then being able to share those insights in a way that like really resonates and connects with people.
It's about understanding each other.
Yes, this has been amazing. What are your final thoughts for our listeners today? It feels like we've been on this incredible journey. you know?
I know, right?
Like, we've gone from being these, like, amateur detectives,
Yeah.
trying to be like Sherlock Holmes, and now we're, like, communication masters.
Communication gurus.
Yeah, I love it. What I think is so fascinating is that it's all connected.
It is. It's like the visual intelligence isn't just about seeing what's around you.
Right.
It's also about understanding people.
Yeah, like how we see things,
Yeah.
how we make sense of them, and then how we explain all that to other people.
Yeah, it's like this whole intricate dance of communication.
It really is.
Yeah.
So for everyone listening who's like ready to put all this into practice,
Yeah.
where do we even start?
I think the first step is just being more aware, you know?
Okay.
Like, start paying attention to all those little details you might normally miss.
Okay.
And, like, question everything.
Yeah.
Like, don't just take things at face value.
So it's like challenging your assumptions
Exactly.
and being like, wait, am I really seeing the whole picture?
Uh-huh.
Or am I just making stuff up in my head?
It's so easy to do that.
It is. So once we're like, paying attention more,
Yeah.
then we can start using all those communication tricks.
Right.
Like finding resonance and the 3 R's.
Oh, yeah. Repetition, renaming, reframing.
I love those.
They're so useful.
And of course, remembering to separate fact from inference.
Yes.
Because we don't want to go around making assumptions.
It's a recipe for disaster.
It really is. So it's like this constant process of learning.
Yeah. Like, the more you practice, the better you get.
Yeah. And it's not just about being right,
No, it's about understanding.
Yeah.
And connecting with people.
I feel like this deep dive has really changed how I see things.
Me too. It's been really eye-opening.
So visual intelligence isn't just for like detectives and spies.
Right. Anyone can learn it.
It's about being present and curious.
And always asking questions.
So to everyone listening out there, keep exploring, keep observing, and keep communicating.
And remember, have fun with it.
That's the most important part. Happy deep diving, everyone.